Good afternoon, Xometry partners, and thanks for joining today's webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to attend this training. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jason McClure. I'm VP of Quality and Manufacturing here at Xometry. Today I'm joined by Greg Paulson, Director of Applications Engineering, Case Manager Samantha Jenkins, Laura Brown, our Partner Operations Leader, Amanda Bauer, Quality Control Manager, Zandria James, Partner Marketing Manager. Today's training webinar has been designed to educate, remind, and highlight each step within our VQC and RMA process. We've seen many of our partners have challenges in these areas, and we want to ensure the thorough understanding is held by every partner within our network. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items I want to cover. Today's session will be recorded, and we will be sending out a link to everyone on this training session. The recording will be posted in the community at a later date next month. And after all our trainings have been attended by all the partners, that's when it'll go live. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat feature. We will review and answer each question at the end of the session. So, what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover what is VQC, the types of VQC, identifying when a VQC is required, tips for successful VQC, and then what is an RMA? RMAs processes at Xometry and tips to avoid RMAs. So what is a VQC? VQC is our virtual quality control. This is an added layer that evaluates the parts to make sure that they're not only manufactured correctly, but we also have the correct documents and paperwork. It's a remote inspection, and in certain situations, you'll have to interact with one of our Xometry quality control inspectors. So we have two types. We have standard inspection VQCs. These are for any partners that are inactive for 90 days. These are also for high profile customers. These are customers that are, very spendy, let's say. So they're high profile, they spend a lot of money, buy a lot of parts, and so we want to make doubly sure everything's perfect for them. And then if your quality score drops below an 80, you have to do the standard inspection VQCs too, just because we kind of can't trust you as much as we do everybody else. Report VQCs, so anything that is non-standard inspection, so a formal, an FAI, a CMM inspection, or first article inspection, and then we even have custom inspections. These we document, we send the documents out to the portal, you fill them out, upload some pictures, and we'll get into that here a little bit more. So, standard inspection VQC requirement, right? After you've accepted the job, you're going to find out whether or not you qualify for this inspection type. So, if you're inactive or you're a new partner, you're probably going to have one of these. If your quality score is below an 80, you're going to get one. The high profile customer, you won't know until later. So one of the questions we get is, how come you can't tell us up front before we take the job? Well, we're working on that. That is going to require software to look at everything, but for the high profile customers, we can probably flag it in the near future. The other ones, you're going to have to know how active you've been and what your quality score is. Basically, we're going to send you an email with instructions. Typically, it's a print with highlighted dimensions, and we're going to ask you to upload pictures as proof of the inspection, and then you're going to upload that into the partner portal and then email vqc@xometry.com. So the report inspections, again, are anything other than standards, right? We require this for all customers regardless. Everything needs to be measured with calibrated measuring equipment. That's a big one because, we've been finding that partners, they don't have calibration systems in place. They're supposed to when they join the network. Apparently, whether we don't vet them enough or they get lax and it falls out of calibration or whatever, we have to have calibrated equipment for these reports. You will have to report out on the report what piece of equipment you're using and when the expiration date is. So our team here will create a bubble report off the customer's print. We're going to generate that report into an Excel format for you based on the appropriate format, and then we are going to upload that to the partner portal where you're ready to download it when you're ready to do the inspection. Generally, we give ourselves 2 days from when you take the job to do this. If for some reason it's not up there and you need it or you're going to need it soon, please email into VQC so we can prioritize that to the top of the list. Go ahead to the next slide.
Hey, yeah. And I could take over from here, but yeah, what I'm going to be talking about, and this, my name again is Greg Paulson, I'm the Director of Application Engineering here at Xometry. And I want to walk through some of that workflow when you're in the job board and recognizing when a VQC is required. So as Jason said, and we have gotten a lot of requests for this, so I hope too that we're going to be more transparent on the pre-take of the job. But right now, you get to see if there's a virtual QC required after the acceptance of the job. Where you're going to look is actually on kind of those traveler operations that you see on the job board. So you have your materials order, production started, inspection started. You should see if there's a VQC required, virtual QC required. The other dead giveaway is that within that business day of you accepting that job, you're going to get an email from vqc@xometry.com. Again, with that, usually a print with some highlights if it's a standard inspection. You're going to see some information there. So you're going to be able to know 2 ways. So one is through that digital tracker on your job board. And the other is you're going to receive that VQC email. As always, even before a job's accepted, you could always see what type of inspection is requested. So as Jason mentioned, we have standard inspections required for all jobs, but if the customer's requesting something like a formal inspection for the port or CMM report, those are deliverables along with this part. So that's something that's pretty standard. The VQC is the other side of that. Let's go to the next slide. So yeah, what is required for a standard VQC? The way to think about this is a VQC is for us to have some sort of digital auditability of these parts. One of the things that we always talk about at Xometry is our customers are not just cutting brackets. They're making parts that have specific tolerances, specific needs to them, and typically these parts are going to their receiving inspection. So because they have receiving inspection, we need that level of receiving inspection. And with a massively distributed manufacturing network, we need to make sure that this work is is accessible. So a VQC allows us to essentially look at an instant if we get a call from a customer about anything that comes up. And of course, when the VQC team is looking through, they could download this information, take a look, and understand where and what, and have some context around these parts. So that's why it's really important to actually document stuff that is clear, crisp, and legible. So what we're looking for
One more thing
is,
I'd want to say is it helps if there's an RMA, right? So
yeah,
on the backside, when there's an RMA, first thing we're doing is looking for what kind of pictures did you upload? What kind of QC report did you upload? Is what the customer showing me the same thing? Is it the same type of part? Are the cutting patterns the same, right?
yeah.
Just everything about it. How did they receive the part versus how'd you ship the part?
Yeah, it helps protect both sides of the party for sure. And as Jason said, we literally have a button called download all. So when we get a call up, we look at the job, click download all, and we look at the information. So the VQC, again, it was embedded to allow us to have this workflow without all the parts going directly through Xometry's QA platform. So when you get that VQC at Xometry.com, when you get that email for a standard quality check. So this is one where you're not putting a dimension report in that shipping package. You're going to have a highlighted drawing. So you can see in the lower right of this screen here, a highlighted drawing with highlighted features. We want to have clear, crisp photographs of those highlighted dimensions. So as from the upper right there, you can see, calipers measuring that particular feature. for verification of that measurement. We also want to have images of any finishing of the parts. So, for example, a secondary operation like installing helical inserts, if there is part marking on those parts, if there's anodize or plating. Something to note is that may require you to coordinate and think ahead with secondary operation if you're sending your work out to a finishing service. So just be mindful of that because they have their own timelines and their own shipping deadlines. And we'll go into that in a little bit of the best practices. But again, it's something to always keep in mind is if I have a part with anodize and I have a VQC, you want to make sure that that information is transferred to your finisher, especially if you're expecting them to send you some photographs or information back if they're shipping on your behalf. The other thing we're looking at is just, kind of straight planar faces. So, angles of all images. So this is more of a diagnostic shot. So it needs to be clear and crisp. This is not Instagram. We're looking to look at features of these parts so that, as Jason said, if we get a call, we can very quickly look and see if this is within standards practices or something's off. So it allows us to work very, very quickly and help communicate better so we don't just build a middleman operation where it's a he said she said. We can actually take control and help manage both sides and figure out what action's needed.
And then if you find anything
Oh.
that's off, so if you have a non-conformance on your part, reach out, let us know. We want to sell your part, right?
Absolutely.
So if we can sell the part and let the customer know up front that it's going to come with a non-conformance and they say, okay, we're good to go, then no problem, right? But if they get that part and it's got a tool gouge in it, or it's got tapped holes blown out or something like that, they're going to be mad if it passed inspection and it arrives on their dock and it's no good.
And they will measure every single feature, every single surface profile, and everything you could think about that part if they see a deviation like that. So it's better to get on the line early before we ship. Yeah, and so by the way, after this, so like that's a photograph. So that's kind of the newer thing. The other thing is going to be something that's already along with the job, right? So documentation to upload. So we want to make sure that when you upload your completed inspection report, that can be on your own template with the standard VQC. We just want to make sure those highlighted inspection or those highlighted features that we gave are part of that report. As well as anything like a COC, material certs, or finishing certs, if those have been requested by the customer. Those are uploaded, and again, also COCs, material certs, finishing certs. Those are also things that are put in with the package too. All right, so let's go to the next slide. All right. So, and this is actually, I'm going to take a quick minute here. If you do have any questions along the way, so in the GoToWebinar, there is a questions tab. Make sure to add your questions. One of our goals here is at the end of this, answer as many questions as we possibly can. So please, as you're along the way, feel free to add questions there, and we're going to try to address them at the end of this webinar. So, all right, I have my documentation package. I've been uploading my photos. I've been proactive. I worked with my finisher. That's the final thing, right? My finisher's got the anodize. They send me those pictures. Boom. All right, I uploaded all my information. Let me get back to VQC at Xometry.com. That's the ideal world, right? So we want to make sure that everything that is needed is uploaded to the partner portal. So using those upload features in the on your job board, and that they are uploaded to the partner portal. Once that's uploaded, you do not need to send attachments to VQC at Xometry.com. What you're doing is you're going to let them know that this job ID is ready for VQC, and they will go, and like I said, we have that magical download all button on our side, and we're going to go through the audit really quick. If everything's good, then we will actually essentially activate your ability to ship and let you know. You could also see on your digital portal that VQC will no longer be a blocker, and you'll be able to create a shipping label. If we catch something, we're going to go back to you. We're going to let you know what's missing and what you'll need to be able to provide before we're able to ship the product. And like I said, this is a digital blocker. So if VQC is required on the job board, you're going to be blocked there until we unlock, until we approve it on our side. So it's worth taking the extra 10 minutes, making sure, or 5 minutes, making sure that everything's on there, and pressing go so that we don't lose hours on a back and forth transaction.
And if this is your first VQC, please let us know that. We will be happy to train you and help you and work through the process with you, just to make life easier. Once you do it a couple times, it's easy.
Job.
Not quite, but yes.
So, but that's, again, this is the thing, is when we talk about this, the biggest goal is to have that auditability. Like once you have that uploaded onto the website, that's attached to that part ID, attached to that job ID, we have this digital timestamps that allow us to go back and honestly help protect you and help make sure that we resolve issues for our customers. So it's both a customer service side for RMA rework requirements and our quality side at Xometry, as well as to help build that communication with legacy, because we're able to actually very quickly see the results of those parts. Let's go to the next slide. So this is different than, so I just talked about the standard VQC. So you have that drawing, you have those highlighted features, and you're essentially reflecting that information back via photos as well as a inspection report. With a report inspection VQC, this is when a customer has requested a deliverable of an inspection report. So this is templates that you can download through the partner portal. You are going to inspecting through bubble drawing to go back to feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 on this. And again, this is something that is mailable. It's going to be something that's in the package. We have proper sampling sizes. So if you go to the partner guide, you can see where we sample, but they're standard sample sizes that you'll be using. As Jason says, it's very important that you're measuring equipment. So if we are saying that this dimension is good and validates this product and it's good for the customer to receive, that equipment must be calibrated. They must have some sort of traceability of the calibration for that equipment and expiration date.
And please make sure the equipment is appropriate for measuring the dimension. So don't measure a plus or minus 1/1000th hole with a pair of calipers. It's not appropriate, right?
And to that note, if you do have a question on how to measure something, because sometimes measurement is just as much challenge as fixturing or setup, that's what we're here for. We have professional quality teams that you can reach out, and we're always, our goal is to make sure that your work is awesome. So anything we could do to help there, we're very happy to. Do not be afraid to reach out.
We are here to help. I am happy to get on the phone and talk you through anything that you need help with.
Yep. So just again, if there's VQC required, this documentation, just like everything else, you're going to click that upload file button next to that part on your job board, upload that file, that information relative to, like, if it's an inspection report or COC, for example, or material cert. So just a refresher, when it's a formal inspection, this is going to be the report on a formal template. So you can download the template from our partner guide. If it's a CMM inspection, that's going to be a CMM report. So the printout from that CMM report relative to the bubble drawing that you have. And then we have more detailed information about what a first article inspection report is required on our guide, but this is basically formal inspection with more steps to it.
Yeah, and again, if you need help with the AS9102 format, we have a presentation that shows you what goes in each box and that type of thing. And Amanda's been working on an updated version of our inspection reports so that it's yellow before you fill it out. And then when you fill in those boxes that are required, it'll turn white, right? And so that'll make life a little bit easier on everybody to know what boxes have to be filled in, what boxes don't have to be filled in, that type of thing. And then, as far as the CMM goes, that is translated onto the formal inspection report, whether it's a AS9102 form or it's the formal inspection form. We do need that information dumped in. There are automated ways to do that. Likely your CMM can export that into the Excel for you, or there are other programs that do that as well.
And just as something to note that when these inspection reports, like when these other traceability features, so like I said, the things that go in the box are required by the customer, they are as important as features on the parts, like as milled features or tapped holes. What typically happens is these parts will go to the receiving inspection of the company or the customer's company, so it won't even go often directly to the engineer purchasing it. And if it's missing a report, they're not even looking at the part. They get on the line. So this is why it's so important, especially, getting in touch with the VQC and why we're looking for that. Because if this information isn't provided to the customer, it's blocked, regardless of how good the product is. So this is why we stress quality and this level of quality assurance so much here, is because this is the type of customer that we have at Xometry. They're very demanding, and they need that traceability because of the products that they're making.
A lot of this stuff is going into space, going on airplanes, going in automobiles, medical use. Like we do a little bit of everything. Our customers do anyway.
Cast a very wide net. So let's go to the next slide here. All right, so just again, this is a reiteration, and I'll just spend the time on this real quick. Don't be running laps around your shop and then like try to take a picture as your part's whooshing by. We want crisp, clear images. Honestly, our cell phones are probably the best cameras you have for this type of work. Like, they do an amazing job at taking these photos, and it's very easy for you to get that information. But we're looking for clean, explicit. If your caliper is hovering open to the required dimension, obviously that's not what we're looking for here. But just that's our goal here. This is all auditability. Like, this is not the posing for marketing or anything like that. These are customer parts here. So this is more for us to audit, make sure that those required dimensions, we have some sort of traceability against it. So let me recap on the next slide here. We have some tips for a successful VQC. So our partner portal, utilize some of the stuff that we have there on the partner portal and guide. Utilize the inspection checklist available. That's really going to help you out, especially if there's other requirements for deliverables. Carefully take a look at those job requirements. So when you're reviewing job before acceptance, you can see if there's requests for deliverables like COCs, material certs, and even dimension reports required. Like I said, you don't see VQC or which ones require VQC. There's some hints based on what Jason said. If you have your PSS below 80 or you haven't been active on the job board, there's some things that may help you understand that you may see VQC more often than others. But there's still a lot that you're able to see before taking that job. Let us know if there's anything that happens, if there's a feature out of conformance, or there's something that you have a question on. Send a message out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
And I just want to say one thing, that read the notes. Right now, material traceability is not a checkbox option. It flows out in the partner portal notes and onto your PO and onto the traveler notes that you can print out. Material traceability and hardware traceability and all that stuff is a big deal. If you don't have it, it's hard to get it on the back end. If you're not sure what it is, please reach out and ask. I'll be happy to explain it to you. I've got a whole slideshow of what it means. But if you're not sure what documentation you need, we're happy to help you. If for some reason you're having a hard time finding material, we're happy to help you find material. If you're not sure that the material you bought for the job is correct, before you make the parts, reach out. We'll verify it and say yes or no, right? Because we have a lot of partners that get to the VQC step and it's 6061 T651 per AMS 4027, and they buy something else, right? That AMS number has to be 4027 if that's what's on the customer's drawing, and we can't deviate. And then if we have to go ask the customer, Certain aerospace customers are like, why are you asking me this? Right? So make sure your material is right. Make sure it's got the correct DFARS requirement if it's required. Make sure you've got all your documentation to be what it should be. And if you have questions, please ask.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if you're manufacturing, it's like a rite of package or passage to be burned by realizing you need a material cert after you're ready to ship the part, because it is so much tougher to get one afterwards, but so easy to ask for one when you're purchasing the material.
And
Um,
the best time to check is when you get the material from your supplier, right? A receiving inspection on your material can save you thousands and thousands of dollars.
it's huge. So again, reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. And this is the thing: is VQC. It's some extra steps, right? Taking those images. So it's extra than just doing the measurement and writing it down. Give yourself time. So complete that VQC at least one day before your part is due, and be considerate of shipping and pickup time. So if you have a 4 p.m. FedEx, understand that you need to work around that. Even more so if you're working with a finisher and you're requiring them to ship, so you're going to send them the shipping label. You need to get that image back. They have their own shipping times. Make sure that you're coordinating with those finishers so you don't have them up against the wire. You lose a day on that. And as we say over and over again, make sure that you are using the calibrated equipment when you're doing any inspection.
And realize that we have multiple shifts for VQC, right? So you don't have to submit it, the morning the day before. But like if you've got it done at 9 o'clock at night, right, and you're ready to go, submit it then. Don't wait till the morning. Submit it then. But the hardest part is when everybody comes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right, and they all submit their VQCs at once, and then we have to go through all the VQCs at one time instead of spread out throughout. And then if you're an hour before shipping and you've got a documentation problem, you're gonna be late. So.
And we don't want you late. I mean, like
No.
we want to make sure that we have extra shifts and we have folks in to make sure that we're as fast as possible. But it's still an audit. Like it still does take time.
And we do staff heavier on VQC
Yeah.
around those heavy times of day to try to keep your inspection times down as much as possible. So we're trying to do our part on our end. But again, if you're not sure of something, reach out. We're happy to help.
And so I know Zandria, I think you have some, or you're up on the next slide here. But again, just a reminder that if you have any questions about VQC, I know we're going to be transitioning over to more of the RMA side of this. Please make sure to ask any questions in the question tab. And our goal is to get to as many as we can.
Yep. So thank you, Greg, and thank you, Jason. If you guys have any questions that come up after the presentation, we know sometimes that does happen. You can go to the community. So it's community@xometry.com. It's manned by our partner management team from 9 to 6 p.m. We also have a thread ongoing specifically for the VQC and RMA presentation. So you guys will see some questions that have already come through from our earlier presentations last week, and you can feel free to pose any new questions there and also in the chat while we're going through our presentation today. So I will pass it over to Lauren and Amanda for our RMA part of the presentation.
All right, let's talk about RMAs. An RMA is a return merchandise authorization that allows a customer to return parts that either didn't meet their expectations or the specifications for the job. Over here, you can see some pictures of some RMAs that we've had in the past and that had to be returned for rework or replacement. Customers should be reporting their nonconformances within 30 days of receiving their material. Occasionally, we do let some come through after 30 days, depending on the situation. And once we get them, case management will go over the job, go over all the details, and determine what caused the RMA, what caused the nonconformance, and who was at fault for that. Next slide. So our RMA process, the first thing we look at was the customer's order. So we look to see, was the nonconformance called out correctly in their original order? Or if a Xometry representative did the order, did they record all of the information correctly? And then if it was determined that all of that was done right, and then we will decide if the partner was at fault for the nonconformance. Some of the most common RMAs, the causes for the RMAs are surface finishing damage, incorrect part marking, shipping damage, you used the wrong material, parts were missing, warping, bubbling, misaligned holes, and threading. Now, there are other issues that come up, but by far these are the most common root causes. Okay, so if you do get notified of an RMA, you will first be notified by our partner care team just to let you know that, hey, there is an issue, and then we will follow up with you soon. Then a case manager like Samantha will contact you with all of the details, describing the nonconformance and giving you any inspection reports or photos that the customer provided to explain what exactly happened. At that point, it'll be determined if the parts will go back to you to be remade or reworked. And if that is the case, then the case manager will let you know what date we need that to be done by.
So these next few slides are just top 3 tips to avoid an RMA. Up front, when you're seeing a job posted to the board to accept, make sure you're carefully reviewing the job details to ensure the job is a good fit for your shop capabilities, such as the finish or material. One, to make sure you know that you're going to be supplying the correct finish material, but also perhaps you want to try out a different type of material that you don't have much experience on. You want to make sure that the part itself is a good fit for you and you're not overly challenging yourself with trying out new things. Looking through the part files to check the tolerances on the print as those trump the tolerances on the CAD model to make sure that you're able to meet those tolerances on the print with no problem. Another area to look out for, what Jason mentioned, is the job notes. That's where you'll find the traceability requirements section. You want to make sure you don't look over that and any other notes that may be very important to the job itself.
Yeah, and just generally, like, please take jobs that are within your capability, right? We see it quite often where partners get in trouble because they're like, I really thought this would be a good challenge for my shop. And then they struggle with it and basically you're just losing money, and then it ships late or it doesn't ship at all and we got to resource it to a different partner. And so, like, know your shop's capabilities, know your machinist's capabilities, and pick jobs accordingly. There's plenty of work out there and there's plenty of jobs for everybody.
And we know that you're looking at things super quickly on the job board. We do expect that you are reviewing this before accepting it. However, we understand mistakes happen. Please, look again within that first couple hours you have the job. We're not going to be upset if you write back in and say, hey, this isn't a good fit. And if you get into production and it's still not a good fit, please don't, hide that from us. We'll try to work with you on it. But ultimately, while it may be, a little bit tough to hand back a job later in the process, we'd much prefer that over you shipping our customers parts that you couldn't produce properly. So please don't hesitate to be transparent during the entire process, even up to the day you're shipping.
Yeah, and so one note there is also we have people on staff that are machinists that can help you, right? I can get on the phone with you. I can help if you got a problem. We've got Steve Zimmerman and Harry Lambright, and we're happy to get on a call or talk to you through email, whatever we need to do, that we can help solve your problem, right? And we can work through it together. You're not alone in this. You're a partner, not just a supplier. We want to see you do well.
If you're talking to the case management team and you feel like, well, I'm talking to an engineer, not a machinist, just know if you're fully transparent with those details about why you're scrapping the parts or what issues you're running into, we're going to make sure that you're talking to the best person possible, not just the person you're currently speaking to. We want to route you to get the help you need, which kind of plays into this next portion about tips to avoid an RMA during production. So you should be able to see on your job board, there's an ask a question, report an issue section. When you go to select those options, it will give you some categories. So it's routing it out to the correct department. We'll do our best to answer all questions in a timely fashion, but please utilize this as a quick, easy way of, while it's on the mind and you're working on the job on the portal, to just quickly submit whatever that question or issue might be. The questions may be if it's about a job requirement being unclear or anything of that nature. You can also write into support, or you may see an email address listed on the job you've accepted with specific case manager teams listed on it. But there's many ways that you can reach out to us and we'll be available to assist you with it. Another area is making sure that you rework any QC concerns before they're shipping. If you feel like you're on a deadline in where you have your case manager reaching out saying you've got to ship today, we would much rather you tell us up front that something needs to be fixed than ship things and then hope the customer will be okay with it.
And please, please, please do a final inspection on your parts. That is huge. It's always going to happen that when you don't do a final QC on your parts, there's going to be an RMA. It's just the way it is, and it's usually on really stupid easy parts where you're like, I don't need to do a QC on this. It's too easy, and then inevitably something's wrong. So. This is a huge one.
The next largest area we see is errors made with shipping. I don't think that there's anything worse than you investing all your time into making a part for it to just fail while in transit because of mishaps during the shipping process. One point to make is if you think something's great or it's very large, if you are going to pack something up and you're realizing you need 10 to 20 shipping labels and 10 to 20 boxes, please stop and think maybe this isn't a good idea. We need to palletize this. As you know, there are ways that you can get things into a box that are larger, and FedEx might accept it, but it doesn't mean that there's not going to be clinking around on the way. They're not going to be handling your packages with care. They're going to be throwing them onto a truck, which is why it's important to use cardboards as separators for heavy parts so they're not hitting each other around during the shipment, making sure there's a minimum of 1 inch between the part and the box, so it's not just squished in there very closely. If you're going to package the parts and you see or feel a sharp edge or corner poking out, make sure that's correctly protected so that there's nothing's broken off during in transit. And another good test is to shake the test. If you shake the box test to make sure that nothing's clanking around and you can't hear any parts moving inside.
Another good scenario is foam pack machines. So we actually have a foam pack machine here at our Gaithersburg facility that we got for free. As long as we buy the chemicals to use the foam pack machine, we get to have it for free. So, there's options out there. It's really cost effective, and man, it'll save you money when it's not a $10,000 part getting damaged. So.
Yeah. And you can even purchase if you aren't always doing like very large parts, but you may have a crating requirement here and there. You can kind of get pre-pack Instapacks where you essentially crack, shake, and you could grab some corners with that. Extremely useful for large and bulky items. The other thing I want to note, I feel like I'm just knocking on finishers all day today, but if you are coordinating with your finisher for shipping, I know I've been in situations before where we have these beautiful turned parts, and then the finishers so used to working with a local audience that they loosely pack because they're used to work only staying within the zip code. A lot of times these shipments that you're making may go across the U.S. And so making sure that you're adding in the requirements if your finisher is shipping on your behalf, that they are packing it accordingly. Like, so 1 or 2 extra sentences when you're talking with that finisher can be thousands of dollars of insurance for you.
One final recommendation I would just say is with freight and just in general, make sure you're taking photographs of your parts on the pallet or even in the box as some safety insurance, especially with freight. A lot of things can happen. They can fall off or different things like that. You want to make sure it's secure and that you're able to provide evidence that that was done. And also if something is freight, if it is an extraordinary large part, please do flag whoever's setting that up. Maybe we need to explore different options than the traditional freight setup that we use. We might need to use a different type of truck or loading mechanism to get them on there.
Again, we're here to help, and we have people on staff that can help you with the packaging too. So while we're talking about the foam pack machine, I see that George has asked about that, and we use IPS packaging in Telepack is what it's called. If you need exact information or you want contact information or something, you can get it on the web, but we're happy to supply it. Just email us and we'll we'll let you know the more detailed information. So we've got a question for, do we need a picture of us measuring each sample in VQC? So if 20 features needed to be photographed per part, plus 5 samples, you should have 100 pictures uploaded. Amanda, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, I can take that. So we're not asking you to upload a picture of every single part for every highlighted dimension. We do like to see 1, 2, sometimes 3 parts, depending on how many there are in the order. Basically looking for an all over picture of the parts and then close-up pictures of a few of the parts in the order.
And then if there are any issues with features, if you've got a tool gouge or something like that, point it out to us so we can get customer approval.
Yeah, and I just want to note that the standard inspection plans that we have has 100% pass requirement, right? So if you're measuring only the good ones and ones are not passing, it's not hitting the standard inspection as it is. So having those measurements there are important, but obviously you're going to be measuring to your standard sampling plan with understanding that if something is out of spec, it's reject. So we want to make sure that we elevate and escalate that as required.
So I've got another question here from Milos. Are the kiosks measuring laser scanners approved for use? Yes, they are. As long as you can generate an inspection report off of it and it's the appropriate tool to measure the features, good to go. We have many partners that already utilize 3D scanner arms and all kinds of stuff. We've got 2 separate kiosk machines here that we utilize. As long as it's appropriate for the tolerance you're measuring, we're good to go. So, and then we've got another one from George. He's asking, is there a problem if we adopt a VQC template for all inspections, including standard? If you want to use our template for standard inspections, we're fine with that. If you want to use it for all your inspections, we're going to give you the appropriate template for the formals, right? And that way you're using the right FAI template or the formal inspection template. But if you want to use it on your standards, we're cool with that. If you need a copy of it, you can't find it on the part load portal, reach out. We'll be happy to help you. So.
I also kind of want to note that with our formal inspection templates, they're unique to the job that you are working on. So it does have the specific part information that we're going to preload onto that, as well as customer information.
Yeah. I see a question. Actually, this is a good segue because I was going to mention this, talking about the KeyEnts system as well. But for inspection process photos, if features are inspected by a CMM, how do you want us to document with photos? Actually, CMM is kind of the magic get out of jail free card with the VQC. So a CMM report can substitute from getting those discrete photos for those measurements.
But we still want to see pictures of the parts.
We want to see what the part is, like the planar faces of those parts. But for those particular measurements, obviously the CMM is a controlled calibrated machine, so that suffices.
Yep. So if it's a standard inspection, shoot over that CMM report. If it's formal, you got to fill in a dot. But so we've got Bill is saying if it still applies, we should remind everybody that we do FAIs a little bit differently. There are multiple samples at the bottom of our FAIs. So we don't do FAI in stops. We generally get customers to order their first FAI and then place a follow-up order for production, right? So that will be a order for 1 to 20 parts or something, and then we're going to pull a sample of those as the FAI, right? And so you'll see, just like a formal inspection report, there may be tabs of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's a large quantity, it may have a different sample size, but generally it's 1 to 5. And so, you're going to be asked to fill out all those tabs, but then it's basically just 2 more pages on the front for the FAI form. So yeah. Okay. What else we got?
Going down the list. Yeah, I think so. I've seen some questions come in here, so I just want to. Jason, maybe you could answer this. So it looks like there's a question on using probes that are installed on the Haas machine, like a Renshaw probe.
Yeah, I mean, you can pull dimensions off your Renshaw probing and fill out your inspection report using that. That's fine. I think they're accurate within 0.4 of an inch, and so that should be good for most every dimension. It's pretty easy to do, and it's pretty easy to use. I don't know how you're going to get a report out of it easily, but if you want to like probe the features or run a whatever, then that's fine. It basically is a CMM as long as your Haas has been serviced and calibrated. So we usually calibrated our Haases every year, and we had Renshaw probing, so it was good to go. Calibration tape and everything.
Yeah, to Jason's point, actually, I'm not sure about what type of output you could get from this type of probing systems, but as long as if you're able to communicate, if it's able to be communicated in a way that can be legible by us when we're auditing or receiving inspection, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, our Haases would actually display it on the screen. Like you could tell it check this feature, and it would pop it up, and we could just write it down or type it in. So.
All right, I saw a question from Nick on doing very small parts and having an issue with taking pictures on the phone. I think actually it's something, if you reach out to us, maybe we could help troubleshoot with you and figure out, because I think kind of understanding the size and what type of parts you're talking about, and we can figure out a solution with you.
Yeah, also, cameras are cheap. So they're super cheap on Amazon. Like they're not even as good as, the new phones out, but cameras are cheap. We have a camera hooked up to our bore scope in our inspection lab so that we can run it into holes and check for burrs and stuff like that. And we've shared that with other partners. If you need recommendations, again, we can help with that.
All right, got a question for you guys. So do you recommend using vapor rust or silica gel in shipping packages?
We typically use the rust-proof paper, right? So you wrap, it's like pre-treated, but it doesn't have like chemicals that will transfer to the part. It'll just keep it from rusting. If you want to use silica gel and that's going to work for you, then that's fine too. As long as it makes it to the customer, it's not, rusted up and it doesn't have oil all over it. You should be okay.
And on steels, sometimes you may actually see on the drawing from the engineer, they may have a requirement for shipping or packaging if there's a oil required. So just be mindful of the notes of the drawing as well.
Yeah, if the drawing calls for, bag it in oil, do it.
Yeah.
Are there any specific non-approved measurement techniques or equipment from Chester? Not really. I mean, if you've got something calibrated, then that's cool. If there's something that you're not sure of, ask. So if sometimes there's a feature that you can't check with the CMM because it's too big of an arc and you want to create a radius gauge, right? How do we verify that radius gauge? So we'll actually go to the customer with your inspection plan and get approval so that they're on board. We just recently had a bunch of parts where, they were calling out 100-foot diameter and they want to hold that radius within like ±1 or something. And we're like, there's no way you can check it. So they let us come up with alternate solutions to check that part. And it worked out very well.
Yeah. I could actually use, I know one example off the top of my head, screws are not go, no-go gauges. when checking thread holes. So when you talk about a non-approved, like, okay, you can use this like, or I'm gonna eat my words on this, but if you're checking to see, thread depth, you could use a screw and then literally, measure the full screw, zero out your caliper, put the screw in the depth, measure between the screw head and the part, and you'll have thread depth. But if you're measuring and saying these threads are good, you'll be using a go no go gauge, like a calibrated gauge for that. So a screw does not suffice as a measurement tool for threads.
And then sometimes we have other customers that are more picky, one in particular that we just acquired, that are making us take molds of the threads and check them on a Kion's machine. You won't be required to do that. We'll have to do that at our lab. But yeah, that's something new that we've seen. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so Steve is asking, are parts fresh off the machines okay, or does Zom prefer deburred parts for pictures? We want the parts complete. So if we pull up your pictures and we see burrs on them, we're going to reject it because it's got burrs on it and tell you to go deburr your parts. So we want to see parts, how they're going to go out.
Yep. And Xometry's manufacturing standards do require deburring of edges. Unless it's noted by the engineer drawing to not deburr that edge. So they have a requirement to keep that machined edge. Also be mindful of notes in drawings if they ask for a machined deburring. So sometimes that's requested. Sometimes you do it naturally, and it's awesome when you can because it gives you a very consistent finish on the part. But just be mindful of that drawing as well because that's going to be calling out if it has a hard requirement to machine deburr. That's where it could get you if you use a manual tool.
We recommend machine deburr.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's awesome.
But that said, please do not tumble parts or, Scotch-Brite parts if you can help it without asking, right? There's been many a time where customer gets a part that's been tumbled and they're like, what is this? This isn't machine finish. Yes, it's easier to tumble your parts sometimes, but it's no good if it makes the customer mad. So, standard finish is as machined. And if you're not sure, ask. So I've got a question from George that says, how should inspection be handled for RFQ orders? Most don't even mention inspection requirements. Should we use standard inspection? So if you've manual quoted through Megan as an RFQ order, she will give you the inspection requirements typically. If it is through the 2D drawing RFQ, you have to work that out with the customer because we're not involved. Basically.
Yeah, so that's a conversation between you and your customer. It's something that you could also be explicit about when you provide your quote to them, is what like help manage their expectations of what they're going to get, including the inspection needs, and that way it's crystal clear. But when you're working through the RFQ digital marketplace, that conversation is directly between you and the customer. If you're RFQing through Megan, that actually is going to be work that will become what we call a manual quote through Xometry's instant quoting engine, and that'll be managed through the job board, and it'll fall for the same inspection requirements that you get with any other job on the job board.
Okay, and then we have a tip of the day from Ryan. He's saying there is a tip of the day on the Haas website that you can go to, and it'll show you how to output a text file from your machine with your inspection results. That's pretty cool.
Actually, I'll second Haas tip of the days are great. Some of the best like machinist related lunch break videos you can watch.
Yeah, they tried to get us to do a tip of the day, and I was like, Haas is already doing it. Why do we need to?
So good. Yeah. Oh, Jason, do you want to talk? So there's a question just on the tumble and Scotch-Brite. Just can you clarify? So I machine a part. Maybe I have a 63 finish, and what do I do? Like if
if you have standard finish, please do not tumble your parts. If you need to Scotch-Brite your parts or you need to sand on them to get a finish in, do that, but try to make it look good. But really, customers are looking for the as machined finish unless they're telling you, please Scotch-Brite. Most of the customers, if they want a Scotch-Brite finish, they'll say Scotch-Brite this grain direction with this grit or something like that. And then again, if you have questions or you need like visual acceptance criteria or something like that, please let us know. You know, that tumbled part really upsets customers sometimes because it affects the way they get their part finished. So when it goes to anodize, it's going to look different, right? They may not come out as crisp or as bright as it normally would. Also, if you bead blast your parts and you're not supposed to, you're probably going to have to remake them. We've seen a lot of partners, they bead blast to hide surface imperfections. You can't do it unless you get pre-approval. So like if you wanted to reach out and ask us about it and say, hey, I've got this bad surface over here, can I bead blast it? We'll ask the customer and see if it's okay. And if they're going to powder coat it, cool. If they're not going to powder coat it, then probably not a good idea because it's going to make a matte anodize, or you're going to have like, you know, it's just not going to look right. So again, standard, you shouldn't Scotch-Brite. If you have to, you should probably reach out. If you need to tumble finish it, you shouldn't have to, right? There should be no reason to tumble finish unless it's on the drawing. And then same way with bead blast. Do not bead blast unless it is a requirement on the job.
Yeah, so bead blast is a specific drop down that the customer chooses. So it'll say finish bead blast on it.
I think tumbling is as well. So.
All right. Any more questions, guys? I think we covered a lot. We're coming right up to time. I saw some follow-ups from some questions we asked earlier, but we'll grab those offline. Yeah, we're always happy to answer. So I don't see anything else. Any final words, Jason?
No.
Lauren?
No.
Amanda? Samantha?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Hey, thank you all so much for coming to the webinar. And again, we want to make this as smooth as possible. We understand the VQC it's pictures and it's a little bit of in between. But however we can help, we want to make sure these products are high quality and just understand that Xometry, we have resources on staff. We have Jason, he's like 100 years machining experience or something like that.
It's all the gray of the beard.
He colors the beard. But seriously, we have experience on staff, and we're always happy to help. And thank you so much for attending again. All right, have a great day.
Thanks.